Hey, wonderful Pure Belonging community. Checking in. It's Friday night. It's been quite the week. I don't know who said in the beginning of the week, it's a week with Friday the 13th and a full moon. Oh, and the time change. And good luck, everybody. And then yet factored in that many of us all over the world would be taking in some extra precautions to do social distancing. And so it's been quite the week for many. And I feel like people, especially in this community, have been so caring, so kind, so open, both to each other and out in the social media space and via email. So thank you all for co-creating just a beautiful space for all of us to connect and to feel safer with each other. So I led a practice in the 365 membership community, which is a place where Roland, my husband, and I produce monthly content to support people just with general health and sane self-care that doesn't go overboard with diets and craziness. And we've had the community for about it's going to be a year and a half soon. And we're very blessed to have them. And so the practice that I posted earlier was something that I did for them, I think Wednesday night. And I haven't really checked in here on Pure Belonging. And I'm sorry that I haven't been able to. It's been quite the week in my schedule. I want to say welcome to all of our new members. 5 people so far have joined Salt Lake City live workshop, and more might be. So I'll be very, very happy to have more of you here. And hi, Liz. So I'm very happy to see you, Liz. I miss seeing you live every day at work. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about what the nervous system does at times of high alert, both individually and collectively. I'm going to give you some practice that we're going to do right now together as a community, and just some things that you can do day to day throughout your kind of coming and going and transitioning from one thing to the next. So times like this require incredible presence to what is happening here and now, and really being very careful to discern what about what you're feeling is coming from the present moment, and what about what you're feeling is really seeping up from the past. And so typically in situations like this, where there's something big that's happening in the community, and maybe for America, there hasn't been anything like this since 9/11. Anytime that there's something big that's happening like this, both ways. So we have the people that tend to get more fragmented, they get more anxious, they get more upset, that are kind of more up. If you're looking at nervous system language, they're more up over their threshold into more of the fight or flight flavors. Hi, Julie. Hi, Ellie. We have Julie in Seattle and Liz in Orange County and Ellie down in Brisbane in Australia. And I think Raquel might be joining us too. So you're looking really, when you're looking around at your friends and loved ones, you're seeing the people that are like, oh my God, this is really bad. What are we going to do? And there's really these reactions that are a little bit more chaotic, disorganized. There's a lot of fear in the system, but the fear is dispersed. It's really kind of chaotic, and there's a lot of adrenaline in the system. There's a lot of wanting to do. So we're checking stuff, we're writing, we're making plans, we're rushing around. There's lots of activity. And so there's a climbing up. And if you remember the handy model of the brain, those of you who have done some more work with me, you can look at the brainstem, the midbrain, and then the cortex. And in this model, any time that we go over threshold, there's too much stimulus, too much too fast, not enough support to digest. So in order to digest stimuli, we need space, we need support, and we need safety. And when we don't have those things, we literally, we flip our lid. And so we're left with our primitives. Our ambassadors, our wise counselors, our wise guides are not on board. And so we just have these more primitive parts that really feel very uncomfortable. And I just want to remind you that this is coming from the body. This is not something that's coming from your brain, from your mind, character. This is not, oh, I'm just an anxious person. No, this is a wiring, this is a home base of the system that under these circumstances, with this window of tolerance, we are over threshold, and each of our systems is going to tend to what it tends to do. So here, those of us who are more, hi Raquel, who are more disorganized, who get more fragmented, we're going to be doing more stuff. There'll be a lot of activity. So you might notice that you're not sleeping as well. You might be noticing that you have racing thoughts, that you're catastrophizing in some way. And on the other end are like the people that get like more stoic and kind of more rigid. And they're like, we're good. Everything's okay. There's nothing to worry about. People be freaking out. Mass hysteria out there. What the F is wrong with the world? Everything's going to be fine. This is a political thing. Like, there's the people that are like super rigid and they're not allowing any feeling. So there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of talking, there's not a lot of feeling. And usually within that realm of people will also be the ones from cultures like mine, where whether you want it or not, you might have grown up in a culture where you've had some of these difficult experiences, that certain elements of what's going on right now, and I'll talk a little bit my own personal experience, are really kind of pulling up these threads of old implicit memory that hasn't been metabolized, that hasn't been digested, that's sitting in your body literally like a time capsule, and it's waiting for something to pop it open. And then as it pops open, all this content fizzes up for you to watch the percolation. But not all of us are knowing, not understanding what's happening, and not all of us have the capacity or have learned yet how to do it. So this is what we'll be doing tonight. So some of those people who might have grown up like me are like, oh, we've seen so much worse. It was so much worse for so many more years, and there was nothing in the store. We had to just eat this or just eat that. And, you know, I talked to my grandmother the other day, who incredibly wise and really in her old age, she's been through so much. In 32, so she's seen a lot of things, and she was like, you know, you guys are all spoiled. You know, that's one way to go about it, but it really shuts down emotion. And what happens when we shut down emotion, when we become really rigid, is the body becomes really tight and really shut down, and then we don't have energy, and we start to feel helpless and lonely and isolated. And so we neither want to be up in this kind of fragmented, really, really dispersed and scattered, I'm just going to do stuff and run like a chicken with my head cut off. And we don't also want to be in this like stoic place where, you know, a couple of days later you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I have no energy, because you're holding all of this down. So I'm reminding you that what digests experience is presence and connection. Presence and connection. So you are learning to be present with your emotions, with your physical sensations, with your thoughts, with your relational attitude, and with your own observing self that's watching all of this happening. And as you do this, the very act of observing creates an integrative force. So you have brainstem, midbrain, cortex. We can bring our observing self on board, and now everything can feel more integrated. And this is what we want, because then things feel more manageable. And when things feel more manageable, we have access to what we call safe and social in this work. You've all learned it. We have access to collaboration, to affiliation, to problem solving, to compassion, to altruism, to mindfulness. We have access to that, and bodyfulness as well. But when you have flipped your lid, you don't. So you can't even, when you're reading information, the information that you're reading is coming in a way that becomes triggering instead of informing. So instead of information, it becomes like a bullet for, the gun that just makes you more fragmented or more shut down. So it's very important that we practice good self-care in these times. And neurobiological self-care is very different than, making sure you wash your face at night or you floss your teeth. Neurobiological self-care requires a moment-to-moment awareness where you can actually track where you are in your body. So a very simple way to start checking in with yourself, even right now, as we kind of step into practice for a little bit, is what am I aware of right now? What is the loudest, what is the highest volume awareness in me right now? Is it my body? Is it my thoughts? Is it my emotions? Is it how I'm relating to others? What is the easiest to be aware of? What has the highest level volume turned up right now? And as I check in with my body, I'm aware of some tension around my heart and around my gut. And so more of the loud, kind of more audible information is coming from my sensations, from my actual physical sensations. And then my emotions are pretty kind of calm right now. There isn't anything coming up. And so my thoughts. And relationally, I feel kind of open and excited to be with you and have this opportunity to talk to you. This really nice back and forth between the people who are live here and me. There's just this nice back and forth flow. And even as I'm watching all of this, my body feels a little calmer. So let's first attend to physical sensations. So as you're sitting or laying down, find what might be the most supportive way to sit down. Find your feet, your seat, your back. And let yourself yield into the support. So if you have a chair behind you, perhaps you can even lean back a little bit more. And then start to bring your attention down and in. One of my teachers says, go ahead and sit all the way in, all the way down. And as you come in, see what you're aware of. Any areas in your body that might be stressed right now. Perhaps your neck, your shoulders, your belly, your diaphragm, your pelvis, your quads. Any areas of your body that might be stressed right now. And can we include the stress? Oftentimes when we feel something uncomfortable, it's like, I don't want to feel this. And my invitation here is just to provide a home for whatever is coming up. So can I notice the tension, stress, rigidity, constriction around my belly? And can I make a home for it? Can I be a home for it right now? Can I be present for it? And imagine that you're touching it with your awareness, but you're touching very lightly. You're not going in, like if the stressed area in your body is like a room, you're kind of like close to the walls. You're not in the center of the room. So you're touching with this very gentle, kind attention. You're not prying the door open to see what's really inside. Just gently, and just let it be there. And also notice your support. So now can you simultaneously notice the support of the chair or where you're laying down? Feel your feet, your seat, your back. So yeah, I'm noticing the support. And in the context of that support, I'm also feeling the stressed places in me. Can I observe both? And as I observe both, maybe something softens or starts to digest. And now I would like you to picture the energetic space around you, your boundary, your safe space, safe bubble, whatever you like to call it. And for most of us, it's at least like when you stretch your arms out, it's at least at that length. And for some of us, it's double and triple, depending on how big your field is. And just kind of get a sense of your energetic space around you, of your field. And imagine that between that stressed place and the edges of your field, there's this buffer zone. Just like in a cell, you have the nucleus of the cell, and then you have the cell wall, and there's the cytoplasm where everything kind of floats in it. And can you let the stressed places, just like the organelles inside the cytoplasm, just let the stressed places float in that whole buffer space that's between your physical body and your energetic space? And what happens when you do that? I'm here, I feel my body, I feel the grounding and support that I can yield into. I gently touch the stressed places and I let them be held in the larger fluid container between me and that space around me. And can I feel myself in this situation with the world around me, doing social distancing and adjusting of how we move and travel and do things for a while? Can I feel myself? And are there any emotions that I'm aware of that as I feel myself, as a field of aliveness and sensation within that field, am I aware of emotions as well? Is there joy, relief, pleasant expectation, fear, apprehension? Is there frustration, annoyance, anger, confusion? And can I picture that each of those emotions carries a timestamp? And some of these you know very well. You look at you and you say, I know these. Some of these I know very well. So some have a timestamp of this week and some have a timestamp of 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And can you just picture the emotions as they're kind of moving? Emotion is energy in motion, is always movement with emotion. Which way do they want to move? Do they want to move up and out? Do they want to float in that buffer space? Do they want to be shared? Two pairs of hands touching? Do they want to be shared? Do they want to be expressed? What do the emotions want? And so the older timestamps, typically all they want is witnessing. can I be with this older timestamp emotion? I'm going to give you an example when we're done with practice, what this looks like. Can I be with this older timestamp, this old flavor, this kind of really early flavor emotion, or I feel really vulnerable? Can I be with that? What does it need? Oh, somebody to be with it, somebody to hold it, somebody to listen to it, somebody to calm it down, to talk to it. And then if it's a more present time, like today kind of emotion, maybe you just want a conversation or you want some information. So what the emotion needs is going to vary depending on how old it is and what it's about. And can I feel myself as a field of sensation and aliveness, as a field that has space within the energetic boundary to feel all the sensations and emotions that are coming up to the degree to which we're capable. And can we be grateful for what we see and what we can witness, what we can hold? And then if you move to your thinking mind, notice if that's busy, hurried, problem solving, or if it's more quiet, gentle, soft, tender. What's the thought life like? If you had to name what kind of thoughts are there fear thoughts, are they doubt thoughts, are they critical thoughts, are they ruminating thoughts, are they problem solving thoughts? What kind of thoughts do you find and what's their quality? Are they fast, slow? Are they just hovering? Are they kind of like a low fog? What are they like? And if your thoughts are really fast, you can put hands on your head and just kind of give your head a little container. Or you can put a hand on the forehead and one on your brainstem. And just wait till you feel a little shift in the quality of the thoughts. Can I feel myself as a field of aliveness and sensation? Can I acknowledge and see the different flavors of emotion and the different intent behind them? Can I see the quality and hold the quality of my thoughts? And can I give myself support with what's overwhelming in my head right now? And let's check in with where you are relationally. Are you quite open to relationship, or are you more closed and guarded? Are you more wanting to reach out, to connect? Or are you more in yourself, more closed off? And there's no right or wrong, we're just checking. And so I would like to invite this connection, because oftentimes when we look at old fear, primitive fear, trauma, we all focus on like, oh, some bad stuff happened in the past, undoubtedly. But we also carry from it the survival, the resilience, the robusticity that comes out from adverse experiences. And I just want you to kind of regard yourself from that place, this body that I inhabit goes so far back. I'm breathing and I'm connected to the breath of people who came before me. And from those people, I have genes, I have cellular, I have epigenetic memory. I have a flexibility in my immune system. Out of hundreds of generations of ancestors, life that knows how to heal has brought this immune system wisdom into my life with all the collective experience and resilience. And so when I feel the fear, I also feel that with that comes the overcoming of it. And can you regard your body as something that's down the lineage of a long, long, long line of bodies and cells and cell clusters and tissues that figured out how to ride the healing wave of life? And your immune system is a spark of that life knows how to heal. Life knows how to heal. And you are proof of that. That's why you're here. Quiet and open space that we've created. If there's anything you need from your long line of ancestors or from the depths of wisdom of your body, if there's anything that you need, ask for it. Ask for what's most needed right now. Patience, courage, faith. Whatever you most need, ask for it. And whatever the people around you need, if you have a sense of what people around you need, ask for them as well. Give my family, my children, my parents, my neighbors, my place of work, ask for something for them too. Ask from the depths of your being, from your ancestors. If you have a way that you organize your spiritual belonging, ask from God, from Mary, from whoever you believe in, ask. And see where you want to receive that. In your heart, in your belly, in your chest, anywhere in your body where you want that promise, that hope to land. See where you want to house that in yourself. And treasure it. Put a little gold ribbon around it and just house it there. Real resilience doesn't come from bypassing the fear that's here. It comes from cultivating a real listening presence and a courage to be with it. And creating the communities and people who can really sit around the fire together and show up for each other in the collective coherence to hold that. And take a big breath and maybe roll your shoulders, get cranial nerve 11 unstuck. We do some nice swimming. don't own a pair of smoothie rings to buy them. They're a quick way to get into coherence if you're feeling kind of jacked. So I'm just going to give a little check-in about my own kind of jacked that's been coming up with all of this. So something that's been really, really interesting is my system under threat, really high threat, tends to go towards freeze. But there's been times that it would go more towards fight or flight, and it really depended on what other stressors are going on in my life. And I was in a hurricane in 2003? Yeah, 2002 or 2003. I was in a hurricane, and I remember getting ready for the hurricane because we knew it was coming and would have at least 10 to 15 days of not working and being at home. And when you work on an island and you work with cruise ships that are coming in, if there's a hurricane and cruise ships aren't coming in, like everything pretty much shuts down because the island just exists for that, right? There's no other work that we have. And so I remember as I was going to the store and buying all the provisions and getting the hurricane shutters on and just kind of putting everything at home, I kind of remember feeling kind of floaty. And like at the time I must have been like, 22, 23. Like I didn't know anything about what I know now about how the body responds to stress. So I remember feeling kind of floaty and feeling kind of sweaty and really feeling kind of dissociated. And I was like, this is really weird. And I was weepy and I was kind of feeling like I was wanting to cry. And I always thought it was about the actual destruction. Like there's going to be these big waves and all these buildings are going to go away and this big rain and there's like the streets are covered in water. And what I hadn't taken into account was the stocking up on food and being in the stores with the food disappearing from the shelves was a fractal. And in our work, we talk about fractals, how one thing is a part of a bigger thing, was a fractal of what we went through when, the wall fell and all the Eastern European bloc countries, we went through this really rough time with actually no food. And I never really took that into account because that I was in my health in that moment. And I think it was at the height of, I just started eating meat and starting to get some body mass on me because it was so thin, so disconnected, so many body image issues, and just so little life was in me. I was not very available to life. Everything was very rigid and organized. I didn't have access to that information. You have to have a certain level of integration to access the fear about. And I just remember weeping and feeling frozen and dissociated. And it wasn't until years later that I could visit that hurricane when we were working I think it was in our second year of somatic experiencing training, working with natural disasters. And I was like, oh, that's what that was about. But it was many years later that I got to visit that, like maybe like 14, 15 years later. So that same fractal is showing up now. So last night I was waiting in line for about an hour at our local grocery store, King Super. It's a very cool name with 2 O's and super. It's very fancy. So it's like the town we live in, Longmont, has about 80,000 people, and we have tons of grocery stores, including like Walmarts and Targets, like huge ones. And King Super is like a smaller, like medium to small grocery store. And there was probably, I'd say about 70 or 80 people in line with big carts full of all sorts of stuff. And here I'm like with my cabbage and ginger, which now in retrospect, I should have probably stocked up on some other stuff. But I'm standing there and all of a sudden there's just these images of me standing in line years old, like coming home and taking the coupons, and my parents would be at work, and I'll take the coupon and I'll go and I'll wait in line. And maybe 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours for one loaf of bread for my family so I could take it home, we could have dinner. And I had never before had access, like I remember the events, I remember the pictures, like I remember the stories, and I remember like we really didn't mind, like all of us kids in line, goofing off, like God knows what we're doing. But now I have access to my body memory about it, and it's just sheer terror. And I had a chance to process some of that in line, process some of that at home with my husband, then see my therapist today, really work through the layers. But it's so fascinating that you can know something, but then the physical experience is still staying there, even though you autobiographically know it, because you actually need to feel it, make space to feel it, and let it move through. So if you have one of those time-stamped experiences like, oh, this is from when I stood in line when I was a little kid, then the level of overwhelm is going to be tremendous, because a little one doesn't have capacity, doesn't have space. You've seen me use Russian dolls to teach this. Like, you're this little, you can only hold this much. And any big flood of information is going to feel overwhelming. So because of the way the child brain works, is this information is stored in a way that, because the hippocampus isn't connected well yet, it really lives in you like it's happening right now. And this is very important to know, is that early memories, even though they have a timestamp, they live in you as if they're happening right now. And the only way to move through them is to be with the sensations long enough with support, with really quality, loving, kind support, your own therapist, friend, whoever you trust, to be able to be with them in a gentle way, coming in and out, creating space, breathing, being with it, staying oriented in the space around you, so that as they metabolize, you start to get the information. Oh, I have an image about this, I have a story about this, I have a thought about this, this reminds me of, so that now you can have a coherent narrative. Because without that, all you have is sensation, and sensation is always going to be overwhelming. And to the degree to which you tell yourself that that childhood experience that was overwhelming feels real now, you're going to make that fear about what's happening out there in the field. And what's happening out there in the field is containing a potential crisis. So we're containing, we're preparing. From brain integration and prefrontal perspective, this is like awesome. This is an integrated response. What are we going to do? Let's plan. Let's look in the future. Let's see who can participate. Let's see what necessary resources the healthcare system has for this, what it doesn't have. This is actually an integrated response. What's unintegrated is our reaction to it. And it really starts to inform us about our fragility. We are so interconnected. We are so fragile. And those of us who don't have savings, and I can tell you, as an immigrant from another country, I brought nothing here with me. And it's just those of us who don't have savings, who don't have that, like what we call security in the West, which, by the way, in Eastern Europe, we lost all of our savings, like in one night like this. It was all gone. So even if you have it, that's not guaranteed either, because it's all like in banks or like in some form that it can disappear. So there's a lot of fragility around it. So to what degree are we capable of being with what really is? Look, this is actually an integrated response. Our social systems are responding well. And then we are the ones freaking out. Because of our fragility that we haven't integrated, that we try to hide from by buying nicer cars and, whatever it is. I don't know what people do. We all do stuff. Like I work to hide from my fragility. Like we all can do stuff. So either I'm hiding from my fragility, it's not integrated, or I am coming up with these responses that really have a timestamp on them, that are about something else, that is primitive, that hasn't been looked at, that was overwhelming at some point as a child. So the more you can observe yourself, this is a purification process in which you get to be here in present time as an adult. And yes, there's stuff from the past that's going to pop up, and we're going to meet it. We're not going to look at it and be like, oh, well, that's just me. I'm an anxious person. No, we're going to meet it and say, who do I want to be right now? And who can I be for those parts of me that didn't have a witness, that didn't have a protector, that didn't have a loving, listening presence? And can I show up as that now? And if I can't by myself, who are the people who can help me? And so this is why I'm doing these lives. So, we're processing together as a community, and there's time to listen, there's time to digest. And sometimes it's just one word you hear that was helpful. Sometimes the whole thing was helpful. And I don't necessarily know what I'm going to do when I sit here. So whatever I'm saying, somebody needs. So this is for me for tonight. A big week has ended. We had an anniversary yesterday. We were supposed to go on an anniversary trip this weekend up in the mountains, which we have canceled. And we're going to stay home. And I'm going to garden. And I'm going to get my hands really dirty in the soil. We just released our compost worms that we brought from California last week into our flower beds. So we're going to see what they've done in there. And I look forward to finding them and seeing all the sleeping ladybugs and other things that might be waking up right now, because spring will be coming soon. And watch for that, because spring is coming. And as Pablo Neruda says, you can cut all the flowers, but you can't stop the spring. And whatever gives you hope, whatever gives you courage, whatever gives you connection, hold on to those things. And when things are hard, come in here and talk in the group. This is a safe space. It's full of people who are neurobiologically aware. There's tons of therapists and helping healing professionals in here as well. We're here for each other, and you all have your own little groups and communities. Reach out, do your practices, and take really good care of yourselves. Love you guys. Thank you for giving me your time and your attention and all of your energy and wisdom.